How's it going, everybody? Hopefully you got on and jumped on some of those bets from yesterday. Right now, I got the game on in the background. Manchester City's leading 2-1 at halftime against Real Madrid, but Karim Benzema has scored, which is at plus 250 bet right there. Both teams to score from yesterday. That was at minus 110 or minus 115. I didn't really love the game per se. I think we talked about that sometimes, with soccer or football betting, whatever you call it. There's a chance to maybe make some money on some of the other prop plays that maybe aren't, necessarily the ones that you might bet in some of these other sports. But, obviously in soccer, there's an opportunity to get this. Let me turn this thing down so you're not blinded by my glasses there. There's obviously an opportunity to basically come out here and win some games. Bournemouth didn't show up today, huh? Yeah, 2-0. Bournemouth didn't show up. Nottingham Forest playing well. Sometimes I think in those lower leagues, and you see Sheffield Wednesday obviously is losing as well. Just don't love sometimes betting the lower leagues and trying to find some of these games, when there's a little bit of a smaller schedule. Obviously, talk a little bit more later tonight about some of these games tonight. We got into a little bit of detail about some of the Copa Libertadores and Copa Sudamericana games, but obviously we can get into a little bit more detail about those. But, the games that I have a little bit more of a feel for, sometimes these, obviously the Champions League games, I basically watch all those games and at a lot of those. It's a big game in the CONCACAF Champions League as well tonight. Seattle's playing Pumas, which could be interesting as well. So basically, let's start. If you're watching this game right now, the Real Madrid and Manchester City game, and you have me on the side. Let me pull these live odds up here. There's Manchester City still minus 220 to win this game, but I think there's going to be some more goals in this. I see Peter Schmeichel out there. It's an interesting game. I thought Benzema was hot coming in. Benzema scored in all these games. I thought, at minus 250 or what he was at, I thought that was kind of a little bit of a gimme. Trying to get some of these live odds up here. Manchester City is minus 550. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, look, with these plays, I'm gonna, the good thing about having a show, I do the How to Bet show in the fall. We do, we do the football, and we were really good. Most weeks you do the parlays and we do picks and we pick, all the primetime games. And then, the week 9, 10, and 11, when there was all those upsets, we were terrible. The good thing about these shows is, you're on the record and, people can say, hey, look, you were good yesterday. You were bad yesterday. Sometimes on Twitter and some of these guys that say, listen, my locks last night won, 50 units or 20 units, but, it's behind a paywall or it's behind a thing. So, you got to be able to kind of back that up. Hopefully I'm able to do that. Right now, Manchester City minus 550 on the live odds. The draw is plus 550. Real Madrid plus 1,800. Real Madrid looked terrible. Their defense looked like Manchester United's defense early in the game. I don't know if I would take 1,800 on Real Madrid here, but, the draw at plus 550 might be worth a couple bucks. I don't usually go crazy on these live betting, games like this. I do think Manchester City's a little bit open. John Stones got injured in the first half, so they have Kyle Walker out, Cancelo's out. They have some injuries, so it's going to be interesting. To be able to maybe put $5, $10 on draw plus 550, I think might be worth it. So that's the live betting that's going on right now, and I'll keep you updated as much as I can, or maybe you in the comments can keep me updated. See how it's going there. All right, so tomorrow, we'll start with tomorrow first because there's the other Champions League game. Liverpool's going to play Villarreal, and if you're with me yesterday, I like to say us, the royal us, or the royal we. If you say, Villarreal has been pretty good in the knockout stages. You can't deny them. They're in the semifinals, and there's always seems like the one team that makes a run. I remember Schalke in 2011 because Manchester United beat them. Roma a few years ago. And there's these teams that make a run and then it just stops. At some point, you're going to run into a buzzsaw, and this Liverpool team right now is a buzzsaw. It pains me to say it. They're the best team in the world. I think they're better than Manchester City right now, even though Manchester City has the 1-point lead. I know Manchester City is deeper than Liverpool is. And they might, Manchester City might win a one-off title, a one-off game in the final. They might win the league because they're deeper. But this Liverpool team is really, really talented. They have a lot of guys that can score goals. And I think over the course of the two legs, when we get to the slide here, over the course of the two legs, I think that Liverpool is going to be able to probably put some goals in, 5, 6, 7. Sometimes with these lopsided off the post and then cleared off the line. Almost had a goal in the first 2 minutes. Crazy stuff. So basically want to kind of look at this here. Wednesday Champions League, Liverpool minus 300, Villarreal plus 800, draw plus 240. Liverpool minus 1.5 is minus 125. Some of the sites have an odds boost. Caesars has an odds boost 3-1. Liverpool plus 1100. Liverpool over 2.5 goals is plus 110. So let me put that. And then, while I'm at it talking about Caesars, Caesars has a promotion, $1,100 first bet insurance. Place a first-time wager up to $1,100. Get it back in the form of a free bet if you lose. You must use our promo code right there, ATSWINSCZR. Links are in the show box below. We have 6 hours of great info. Be sure to follow all the Max Wagers Network all day. Midday Money, Sean Higgs, Allie Burns, Morning Wood. Good name for a show. Just Parlays, Chris King. Back to the window, Scott and Scott. Oh, it's me. And then Game Time Decision. So I think Caesars has some pretty good plays here in this. Let me just put this back up here. For me, I think, Liverpool is going to probably win this game pretty easily at home. 2-1. Liverpool is probably going to win this game. I like the first half. I think you can get decent odds on that. But, Liverpool minus 1.5 at minus 125 would be my probably best play. That 3-1 win odds boost at 1,100. Could it be 4-1? Could it be 4-0? Could it be? Yeah, of course it could. Maybe. For me, and I'm going to kind of get into some of this stuff today. Obviously, it's only my second day on the show, So, we've been talking about, mostly the games yesterday and some of the futures, but I'm going to try to maybe get some stuff in there on maybe how to bet games if you're, new to betting soccer, or if you're not familiar with it or whatever. Obviously in these games, if you're used to betting NHL or NFL or some of these other things, I think NHL kind of is a little bit compared to this. You're used to that -1.5 line. You're basically kind of say, like, I think Liverpool is the better team. They're probably going to win the game. The money line is -300. I don't love laying -300 on these games for Liverpool. I talked about that yesterday. If you're betting a lot of money and you think they're going to win, if you're betting 10,000 or something like that, and you just want to say, listen, I'm just going to bet them to win, maybe that's worth it. What I'll do sometimes is, if I have Liverpool -300 on a money line, maybe what I'll do is say, take them with, I don't know, I'll find another -250 or -300 team, -225, and maybe bet it down so it's closer to -125, -110. I like to do the parlays at like plus money, so maybe I'll put a third team in there. So I think there's a chance you could do that. I just, Liverpool obviously is scoring goals like crazy. They're talented. Jota, Salah, Mane, Luis Diaz, who's come in from Porto in the winter window and just been, if Salah leaves, he's the guy. He's going to score a ton of goals. I put some goal scorer bets up there. Salah -135, Jota +100, Mane +105, Diaz +120. With goal scorer bets, especially with teams like Liverpool, obviously they spread the wealth around. All four of those guys are not going to play tomorrow. They're not going to start. I should say that. They might play, if it's 3-0, they're, probably Jota might come in or Diaz might come in, but probably only 3 of those players are going to play. I don't even know what happened to Firmino. They found somebody better, I guess. So, make sure an hour before the match, you're seeing what the lineup is. You say, okay, I'm going to go there. These guys are playing, and maybe I'm going to pick, a couple of these guys to put these goal scorer bets on. Benzema today was +250 or +235. I mean, if you can hit on a goal scorer bet like that, it's pretty good. When it covers, as Bill is saying, Bournemouth doesn't show up today, but it's basically even money, so you lose on that. If you bet on Benzema, you're basically coming away with more money. So it's pretty good to do something like that. So there's a couple ways. I talked yesterday about Asian handicap betting. If you're and if you're watching this on live, or if you're watching on Twitter, my Twitter handler's there. That probably was fun. If you have any questions about soccer betting, please, send me a line, and I'll basically tell you what you want to know. It's, there's some things that are different. We talked about that handicap and Asian handicap and first half scoring, halftime double chance. Last night when I was on, the other buy the book bets, and I guessed on there and talking about both teams to score. In this game, you bet both teams to score, Real Madrid and Manchester City. So you think, yes, they're going to score. No, they're going to not. Maybe you're going to bet them to win to 0, which you can do. In these other sports, obviously, you're not going to bet on teams to pitch a shutout in NFL. I think the other thing you can do here is double chance. There's 3 outcomes to these games. In hockey, it's like that too, 3-way betting it's called. But there's double chance betting. For this game, Real Madrid was +185. To either win or draw. So you're getting 2 of the 3 outcomes with your bet. +525 was Real Madrid to win the match on the money line, and they're plus whatever 380 on the draw line. So if you want to bet those both, you maybe could make some money. But if you just want to say, you know what, I just want to take both of them and take a chance and throw some money on that, you could do that. That's one thing you maybe can do. that, obviously you can't do in football or basketball. There's either a winner or a loser because these games have draws. All right. So I just, at the end of the day, see the Manchester United stuff in the background. I do not think that Villarreal is going to have a chance here in this tie. Yeah, Jim, what's the easiest way to bet if you're new to betting soccer for the first time? When you go and look at this stuff, I mean, when you bet this, if you're betting the Super Bowl or an NFL game, there's so many prop bets. There's so many different things you could bet. This guy over under yards, and sometimes I think you get caught up in all this, the props and everything. And I think when you're looking at these games, for me, I'm going to either look at three main things. In this Liverpool game, minus 300, I don't want to lay the minus 300. So what do I want to do? I want to take a minus 1.5. If they win the game, I'm just betting that they're going to win the game by 2 or more goals. I think that's a pretty good opportunity when you have, a dominant team playing some of these other teams. Let me turn these lights on. I forgot to do that before. And I think the other thing you can do is the over-under betting, over-under goals, because it doesn't really matter who is in the game or who is going to win. You're more worried about if there's going to be goals scored. When we look at the Italian Serie A league, some of these games, both teams to score, there's been a pattern where they've come out, 5 out of 6 times or 6 out of 7 times. There's a lot of goals. On Friday in the Eredivisie, when we talk about that, there's so many goals scored in that. Both teams score is actually probably like minus 200 in those games. So I think you can bet on that. Both teams to score. You don't necessarily have to like a team to bet on soccer. The easiest way to bet, though, is probably just to pick a team if you think is the favorite. My go-to thing for teams, I want to bet. I'm going to give you some inside information here. Probably the books don't want you to know. There's a lot of guys that will and women that will maybe bet the underdogs and say, I'm going to try to get value because I only have to win 35% or 38% of my bets to win the value. For me, I want to go and try to find the best teams in the best leagues playing against the teams that aren't very good. There's enough games every day, and especially on the weekends, where you can say, who's Liverpool playing? Oh, they're playing Manchester City. I'm going to lay off. Or they're playing Chelsea. Maybe I'll lay off that game. Oh, but Manchester City is playing Watford. Oh, maybe I'll take Manchester City in that game. And I'm going to combine it with PSG, who hasn't been actually very good this year, even though they won the title. But they've been, they've even with Lionel Messi, they've been pretty poor. So I want to say maybe Liverpool, Benfica, look around and see some of these other leagues and who are the best teams. It's pretty easy to figure that out. Sometimes if you follow the Europa League or the Champions League, these teams from Eastern Europe or from Portugal or from, Holland or wherever, if they're in the Champions League, they're pretty good if they get to that point. So if they're going back in their domestic league, like you see Ajax has like a plus 75 goal difference, they're going to win these games 4-0, 5-0. So maybe you parlay these teams together. That's probably the best way to make money, I think. One of my friends, Rick Fortenbaugh, who writes for the Trentonian, does that. And what he'll do during live games is, get a team that's maybe 2-0 up and bet them live, minus 1,000 or something like this, and maybe put three or 4 or 5 of those together, and he end up getting a maybe a minus 110 bet, and that's if you can do that enough, I mean, I think he hits like maybe 75, 80% of the time, which is pretty cool. So let me turn this light on here. All right, now we're cooking. All right. So, there's multiple ways to do it. And, if you have any questions, I think, some of this stuff can translate over to, if you're not a big an NBA bettor or NHL or Major League Baseball, some of this stuff will work for rugby. Like I bet the NRL in Australia, the National Rugby League or whatever it's called, in Australia, and it's the same thing. 3 favorites, put them together, parlay. A lot of times they're, these teams are that are at the top of the top of the ladder, as it's called there, will be minus 350. Put 3 of them together, you get plus 110 odds. And, 65% of the time you're winning your parlay. And the best thing about it is those games are overnight. So, you go to bed, you turn your TV off, you turn your phone off, you wake up, look at that. You got all this money in your account. It's really cool. So, all right. So let's go to tomorrow's Serie A action. And we'll put that slide up. And that slide is not here. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to go down it. Right now, in the Serie A, we have Inter is 2 points back of AC Milan. International is 2 points back. So they're going to be playing tomorrow against Bologna. Let me pull this up here. There we go. For some reason, this slide did not transfer, but it is fine. I can do stuff on the go. So Bologna is playing International tomorrow at 2:15. Inter can go to the top with 4 matches to go. It's a really tough race. Italy is one of the 3 leagues. It's England, it's Italy, and it's Germany. They get 4 Champions League teams. Right now, it looks like it's going to be Juventus, who's going to be in there. They're not going to get called at this point. It's going to be AC Milan, Inter, Napoli, and Juventus. Roma right now is 8 points back, so they're not going to make it. The best thing they can do maybe is win that Conference League, we just talked about yesterday. So Inter is playing Bologna tomorrow. Bologna is at home, and Bologna is plus 700 versus International. Okay, it's at 2:15. Inter can go top. I have some stats for you here. Head to head, and when these 2 teams play, there's been more than 2.5 goals in 4 of the last 5 teams. Both teams have scored in 4 of the last 5 times they've played. Now, the only other thing here is Bologna is under 2.5 goals in 7 of its 8 last games. So Bologna hasn't scored a lot lately in games, hasn't given up a lot of goals, but against Inter, they do. It's 4 out of 5. Inter's unbeaten in its last 11, and they're the first half winner in the last 5 games. So here's another thing that you can do. Jim was asking about what's the easiest way. You don't have to bet the game. You could bet the first half. You could bet the second half. You could bet the yellow cards. You could bet red cards. So Inter halftime and full time. I'm not if you bet NFL, I think you know how to do this. Leading at halftime, leading at the end of the game. So Inter is minus 270 in the game. Once again, I don't want to lay 270. If you think you do, that's fine. I'm not really big money line guy at minus 270. My money line kind of limit is like maybe minus 135. If I start having to lay like 150 to win 100, I don't really love it. I'll parlay it with something. That's just my strategy. I think you only need to hit like 1 out of 3 parlays to make more money than you would there. So I'm going to try to look for some different value here. Inter minus 1.5 is plus 105. So once again, if you think Inter is going to win the game, if you're going to bet them at minus 270 to win the game, and you think they're good enough to win, I might take a shot and say, you know what? I'm going to say they're going to win by 2 goals or 3 goals or 4 goals, whatever it is. They just have to cover. So, and then you're going to get it at plus 105. So I'm trying to find that, probably the Asian line handicap is minus 1.25, maybe minus 120 if you're comfortable, doing that. And if you're new to betting, I'll explain that again. Asian handicap means, minus 1.25 means half your bet is at minus 1 and half your bet is at minus 1.5. So if Inter wins by 1, half your bet is a push, half your bet is a loss. So you only lose half your money. So you could do that. You're not going to get as good odds. For me, I'm just going to take a chance and say, look, I'm going to get plus 105 odds. I'm going to take it at minus 1.5. If they win by 1, I lose my bet. Because if they win by 1 anyway, and on the Asian handicap, you lose half your bet anyway. So I'm just going to take a chance. I think they're better. They're minus 270. They should win by 2 goals. Inter over 2.5. We talked about this. Over 2.5 goals scored 4 of the last 5 times these two teams have played. I'm going to say plus 125. I'm going to take a chance. I think Inter's going to score. Inter needs to win the game. They have to win the game to go back to the top. Inter halftime, full time is plus 100, even money. So I say, look, they're going to get out to an early lead, which they've done. They've won 5 out of 5 in the first half. They're playing really well. They haven't lost. They're unbeaten in 5. They're unbeaten in 11. They've won 5 straight. I'm going to take a chance and say, you know what, plus 100 first half. And then I'm going to take a chance Inter halftime. They're going to be leading at halftime minus 115. Now, you don't have to bet all these. Obviously, you can bet what you want. You can pick and choose and say, I like Inter minus 1.5. I like Inter over 2.5 goals. I like Inter halftime, full time at plus 100. There's just multiple ways that I think you can bet this and to profit on these games. Which one is better? For me, I'm going to look at probably the Inter halftime, full time plus 100. Once again, I like plus money. So, maybe Inter at halftime or Inter minus 1.5. I think another thing when you're trying to find, we're at the tail end of the season here. We started the show here, yesterday. The European leagues are going to be over basically in another, not even month, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something. And then there's some playoffs. But now they're going to remember the World Cup is in November in Qatar because they can't play it in the summer because it's 130 degrees Fahrenheit. So I don't, it's going to be 90, 95 degrees in the winter, but that's a different story for a different podcast, obviously. But so these leagues are going to start back up in early August, or the Champions League qualification and the Europa League qualification are going to be in July. So there's not going to be as much of a break for these European leagues. And then remember, you got the MLS, you got the Liga MX in Mexico, you got the South American leagues because it's obviously going to be winter down there, so they're playing over the winter. So there's a lot of action. There's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. All right. The other Serie A game that I like tomorrow is Atalanta at minus. Now, not Atlanta Braves, the defending MLB champions. This is Atalanta. They're actually from Bergamo, playing against Torino. Atalanta is minus 180, Torino plus 500, and the draw is plus 320. Atalanta is right there. When you look at the table, they are currently in 8th place on 54 points with 1 less game played than Lazio at 56, Fiorentina at 56, Roma at 58. So Atalanta still has a chance to get back into Europe. They made it, they've been one of these teams. If you remember watching during the lockdown in 2020, when they just was nothing on, and then all of a sudden they had, the Bundesliga came back and the Champions League. Atalanta made, I think, a quarterfinal, and that maybe in semifinal. They made it to the knockout stage. They've made it deep into this year's Europa League. They're a very good team. They score a lot of goals. They're offensive minded. So they're playing at home. Once again, they have to win. I don't love the minus 180. As we said, maybe I'll put them in a money line with Liverpool and get it down to plus 100. But for me, I'm going to take the minus 1 Asian handicap at minus 110. Foxy, you did warn against Bournemouth. You know, it's tough. Although it's 3-2 right now. Bournemouth is coming back. They're fighting back right now. And how about this? Sheffield Wednesday. I gave you Sheffield Wednesday. Both teams have scored. Sheffield Wednesday with 2 goals in 30 seconds to go ahead 3-2. So Sheffield Wednesday needed that win. They're up 3-2. So we'll watch this Bournemouth and Swansea match. And then this Manchester City game is out of control right now. It's 3-2. My Fubo TV stopped. So we'll see what's going on with that. But that game is crazy. I knew there was going to be goals in that game. And we came back and, it said, listen, there's probably not going to be the end of the scoring there at halftime, 2-1. These teams are really good. Vinicius scored just in the 55th minute. Phil Foden. I mean, these guys are just if you're new, second day, I just had the pleasure of going to watch Real Madrid play Chelsea in the quarterfinals in Madrid, and it's just the level of play. Real Madrid, Manchester City, and Liverpool, the 3 teams, right? I mean, I know Villarreal's in it, but I'm just kind of throwing them out at this point. But I just think this level of play is so high, and these teams are it's just such a good game to watch. So very interesting. All right. So, once again, that might not be the end of the scoring. So I'll keep you posted here if Bournemouth comes back. And it does give me, Swansea City was up 3-0 in this game, and now it's 3-2. So, if you bet them, yeah, Doug, I think it could be an All English final. I mean, look. Here's the deal, it's not surprising that these, it's going to be those teams in the final. They're the 2 best teams in the world. Real Madrid is pretty close, and they're, obviously with Mbappe coming in and some of the players they're bringing in next year, they're going to be Manchester. This is the year to get Real Madrid because they're going to be really good. But the English team, the English league right now, Chelsea, they're down but they're still, playing pretty well. Liverpool, Newcastle, man, wait till Newcastle is going to be really good in 3 or 4 years. Tate the Great drank the juice on the Man City Real Madrid for both teams. I thought that was as close of a lock as possible. They're 5 goals right now and heading for maybe 7. Nope, sorry, Manchester City just scored now in the 74th minute, so now we're at 6 goals. Hope you had over 5 in that game. It's just really, really high level stuff. But yeah, it's, when you're looking at these games, I mean, obviously there's a chance for live betting opportunities if you're watching it. If you're, watching these games, and I talked about this yesterday, live betting is really good. It's a chance for you to win some money, but you have to have a feel for the game. You kind of have to be watching it. If you're watching this Manchester City and Real Madrid, I watched the first half. The EPL is very competitive. I watched the first half of that game, and it was just, there's no chance they come out after the second half and there's no more goals. You knew it's going to be wide open. It's 4-2 now. I wouldn't be stunned to see Real Madrid score or, City. City's going to go for it because they got so many injuries on the back line. So they might as well just keep trying to score 6. And, Real Madrid has to go for it now at this point. 4-3 is not the worst result in the first leg here for Real Madrid going home. Remember, there's no more away goals in the European competitions. So that's going to be something that is, could play into your betting. All right. So we'll watch those games. Hopefully Bournemouth scores another goal here, but we're running out of time. And looks like Sheffield Wednesday, he's going to hold on here. Look at that. Tate says over 7.5 goals is sitting at plus 390. Tate, I told the story yesterday about this. The Liverpool was playing Leeds, in the right after Manchester United embarrassed them. They scored 4 goals. They should have scored 10, but Manchester United can't score, so that is really like scoring 10. And you just have a chance. You're sitting there, you're like +4, plus -4, -5, -3, -4, -5 at this crazy plus money. -5 was like plus like 1,200 or 1,400 or something. And I just put $20 on all of them, and they just end up all coming out. And just happens like that. It doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes you just have to get this perfect opportunity, and you say, you know what? I'm watching this game. Real Madrid gives up a ton of goals. They just got embarrassed by Chelsea at home. There really should have been 4-1. Chelsea should have went through. The handball was terrible. And City scores for fun. Real Madrid likes to press. They're talking in the pregame show about how Real Madrid likes to press, and you saw Atletico Madrid doing that. Atletico Madrid is a little bit better at doing it under Diego Simeone, and they pressed City like crazy in that game, and you just thought there was going to be goals. And the thing is, you have to now say, now next Wednesday, they're going to play again in Madrid, right? And you're like watching, you're thinking about, you're like, man, this was 4-2 last time and AFC Bournemouth has tied the score in the 90th minute. It is now 3-3 from 3-0 down. It is now 3-3. Now we have a chance for Bournemouth to go crazy and cover this bet. And if they do, I'm going to put my match favorite on. That would be unbelievable. But that's a chance, when it's 3-0, you already have your money in the game, right? You already bet it, and you're watching it. So you bet it. You're like, oh man, it's 3-0. Oh, you know what? It's 3-1. They just scored. 72nd minute. Oh, you're watching it and you're saying like, they have a little bit of momentum. The draw is like plus 600 still, whatever. I'm going to throw $10 on the draw, just $10. And then they score to make it 3-2, and that comes down to like plus 200 or whatever it is, or plus 250. And you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to take a chance. I think soccer, basketball, if you're watching the game, and the game that comes to mind is the Minnesota Memphis game the other night when Memphis just went on that crazy 21-0 run, and you're just like, they can't stop them. They can't stop them. They can't stop them. I'm a North Carolina fan. It was 15 at halftime. I had North Carolina to win the East region at plus 1,500. I had them to win the national or plus 2,500. Sorry, I had them to win the national championship plus 12,000. I win my bet. They win, I don't even know, $1,500. They get to the final. I can't hedge because they're the underdog. Kansas is the favorite. It gets to halftime. North Carolina's up 15. And you know what? Now I can hedge. I wanted North Carolina to win. Bet with your head, not with your heart. I made sure I covered my bet. Kansas obviously won. And you can do that. But there's ways to do that, I think, during live betting. And there's still some injury time here, which is going to be crazy. Do I think Bournemouth is going to hang on for second place? I think so. When you look at the table right now, Nottingham Forest is on 76 points. They still have 3 matches to go. Forest is my, James Garner's playing there. Jimmy Garner hopefully comes back to United. And Forest is coming on like a freight train. If Bournemouth, it's one of these things. I think Bournemouth could use this if they come back and tie from 3-0 down and get this extra point. Could be massive for promotion. I will say this though, if you're watching this race here and Bournemouth is second all year and falls, Nottingham Forest catches them and goes to the Premier League, and Bournemouth falls to third, do not bet them to win the playoff. That team that finishes third in a 2-horse race to go to the promotion and has to go into the playoffs usually doesn't play well. Sometimes they don't even get out of that 3-6 playoff, the championship playoff. If you're not sure how this works, the first place team Fulham automatically goes to the Premier League. The second place team, it's either going to be, it might be Huddersfield Town has played an extra game, so it's Huddersfield Town, AFC Bournemouth. Whoever finishes second goes. That third place team, when they've been in this race the whole time and they just miss it and they have to go in the playoffs, and you play a two-legged playoff against the third and sixth, and 4 and 5 play, and then they play one game at Wembley to go to the Premier League. And if you make the Premier League, you're making $150 million, 150 million pounds on the spot. Here you go. Hi, Anthony. How are you? I think, that team, don't bet them. Stay away from that team. Bet the 4th place team, bet the 5th place team, bet the 6th place team. You're going to get decent odds. I think that's some kind of strategy that you can look. It's just a mentality thing. We played so well all year, and we just missed out. And now we got to go battle. And those playoffs are brutal. The championship is by far the most competitive league in all the world. All right. So let's see what we have here. See if this game is over. 90 plus 6. And how about this? Real Madrid has scored. It's 4-3. Over 7.5 plus 390, Tate. There's still 15 minutes in this game, man. This is crazy. I'm going to get off here in 10 minutes and watch the second half of this game and see how that went, or 15 minutes. So it's a little bit crazy. Sheffield Wednesday, they got that game 90 plus 7. So, okay. So we have, let me just show you some of this stuff. Tonight, there's going to be some games. Who are the first two ranked teams in the EPL 2 that are fighting to get promoted against the teams stay and not get relegated? I think, against the teams in the EPL that are fighting to stay and not get relegated. So Fulham will come up. They already won. The second place team, those two teams come up. It's not like in some of these other leagues, they have to play like, most of these other leagues, they have to play those playoffs against the teams. In the Bundesliga, they do that. The 16th place team, 18, 19, 20 go down. 17 plays the 4th place team, and they play the playoffs. But in the Premier League right now, there's no really playoff. So Norwich City's on 21 points. Watford's on 22. Everton's on 29. Burnley's on 31. If you're looking to bet those, obviously Watford and Norwich City are going down. I think Everton's going to go down, even though they have that game in hand. They're a disaster. So if you're, you can bet on that. You can bet on promotion and relegation. At this point now, it's probably, the only thing worth betting is either going to be Leeds, Burnley, or Everton. I would side with Everton. So right now, they have the Copa America, the Copa Libertadores tonight. There's some games. And then obviously tomorrow, we talked about some of them yesterday and we didn't get into too much of it, but I just going to kind of look at some of these games tonight. Velas, these games right here, Fortaleza, America MG, Cerro Portino, Palmeiras, and the strongest are tomorrow night. Let me see who they're playing, Anthony. Atletico Madrid plays Athletic Bilbao, and they need to win the game. I don't love betting Atletico Madrid, to be honest. They don't score enough goals for me, and that guy it's always like he's trying to win a 1-0 game. I kind of just don't love those games. I think, Juventus is a pretty good play. They've just about locked up top 4, so top 4 doesn't really matter. I think Juventus is always a pretty good play. They're playing a lot better since the break, or since the transfer window. They made some really good signings in the transfer window. A lot of people didn't think they were going to get back in to the Champions League, and they did. So these are tomorrow's games in Copa Libertadores and Sudamericana. I think you could maybe play some of these. The strongest, obviously, at minus 580. How can you not bet a team that says the strongest, right? I think you could take a couple of these. Fortaleza minus 310. Palmeiras minus 105. Palmeiras has a tough game at home against, or sorry, in the road against Emelec, but I think they're pretty. Yes, I think they're pretty good. I think they're a pretty good play. So I think you could parlay maybe some of these games. Anthony, when you talk about Atletico, like I was just in Madrid, and you watch these games. I mean, he's like, they call him a football terrorist. To be honest, like they're really good and they win titles. And he's a great coach. Simeone's a great coach, and they play. But they have João Felix and Griezmann. They have attacking talent, and I just don't know why they don't use it as much as they should. I think at some point here, maybe they have to go for it, because this league is pretty close. But I will say Atletico Bilbao is in 48 points right now and on 33 games, so they're basically out of the running. I don't think Sociedad's going to get caught. So Atletico Madrid is only 4 points ahead of Betis. If you bet them, I think the way to bet Atletico Madrid and some of these really defensive teams, Chelsea, sometimes, obviously Chelsea's been playing well, I think is to maybe bet to keep a clean sheet. Atletico Madrid to keep to keep a clean sheet. Dortmund right now is one of these teams that is, they're gonna finish. They're playing Bochum, who is not great, minus 15 goal difference. They don't really have anything to play for. Borussia Dortmund doesn't really have anything to play for. It's not the worst bet. So it's pretty tough. You have to, when there's nothing to play for, that league is over. Bayern Munich is over. They won the league title. I just never know which team is going to show up. They could come out and score 5 goals because nothing matters. He could play young kids. I think sometimes you have to look and see those lineups. I think, a lot of people won some money on teams like that. When you see Arsenal, definitely. I think Chelsea, I thought maybe Chelsea was going to play well in that game, but they didn't. Foxy, when you like these games, you like Tolima away from home. Yeah, sometimes some of these games, plus 325, if you have a feeling about a game like that, plus 325, and maybe, you want to bet both teams to score, I think maybe you can do that. And let me just do this real quickly here. I want to show you this DraftKings promo here. $5 to win 200 in free bets. Make your first deposit, bet $5 on any Major League Moneyline, and 200 in free bets. Swansea City, final 3-3. So they fought back. Sheffield Wednesday covered. So that feels good. So you must use our promo code. Use promo code WAW, WAW video in our show box below. In some states, you must be 21 or older to play. Always bet responsibly. Once again, remember the $1,100 first bet insurance for Caesars, ATSWINSCZR. Back in the form of a free bet if you lose. This is really cool. I've done this a lot with the sports books. Maybe you take a chance on some of these here. You say, I'm going to take Atletico America MG, or I'm going to take Fortaleza, Palmeiras, the strongest, minus 580, and get it down to plus, whatever, plus 120. Put your free bet in. If it wins, you win money. If you loses, you get your money back in the form of a free bet. So it's definitely worth it. Remember, this is part of 6 hours of great info. Midday Money with Sean Higgs, my man. Morning Wood, Allie Burns. What a great name. Just Parlays with Chris King. Back to the window, Scott and Scott, me. And then Game Time Decisions with Nick, Tim, and Lenny. So maybe you want to put your $1,100 free bet and say, I'm going to take Fortaleza. And I think, obviously, just quickly, let me go over some of these games tonight. And, we got, I like Puma a little bit tonight. Listen, Anthony, when you talk about, these CONCACAF Champions League, the American teams have never won. It's always the Mexican teams in the final. If Mexico's playing at home, the Mexican team, I always will take them. Maybe take a shot if you're going to get. I think you get pretty good odds on Pumas tonight. So I'd maybe take a chance on those teams. Foxy, I don't know if you have any opinion on these games tonight, but Vélez Sarsfield tonight at -110 at home against Nacional. Petrolero. The price of oil right now, how can you go against Petrolero? -195. The one game that I like that's in, Talaris, I think we talk about. Liga MX. Yeah, look, whenever you have these teams, the only thing that sometimes will worry me about taking those teams, the Liga MX teams that are playing well in the let me see if I can pull it up. They're playing well in the CONCACAF Champions League, is sometimes they lose that focus in the league because they're so focused on winning that CONCACAF Champions League title. And let's see here. Maybe it gets to the point where there we go. So you see Pachuca right now is at 38 points. Tigres obviously 32, very good team. But you see Pumas is down. They're only on 19 points. So remember the Liga MX has the two different leagues, the Clausura and the Apertura. They have the first half and the second half, so it's a little bit different than they do it in some other places. But some of these teams that are playing in the CONCACAF Champions League, when they go back home and play in the league, they're not as focused. They're trying to win the title. Especially the Mexican teams, because they're so good, they do so well in that thing. So maybe Pumas right now, yeah, it is. The thing with the Liga MX teams and even the CONCACAF teams, the teams that do well in these tournaments aren't always the teams that are good the next year. You're in it because you did well last year, and these teams change so much. And the Apertura and the Clausura, which is really cool. They play the first half of the season, they have a champion. They play the second half of the season, they have a champion. You play there's 20 teams. Like if they did it in the Premier League, you play 19 games and then 19 games, 2 champions, and then you have a playoff, right? So Premier League and some of these other leagues don't do that. But so I think, that's a pretty interesting way to do it. But you don't always get the consistency. In the Premier League, Manchester City and Liverpool every year. It's Newcastle's coming up. Manchester United, if they ever turn it around, they get Ten Hag changes and buys these players. Arsenal's on the rise, some of these teams. But, you get these teams sometimes in Mexico and some of the other leagues that kind of pop up and play well. And those games are really, I go around the corner and watch it at in Ben Salem. I'm in Philly, so El Chingaro. And they have the games on Saturday nights, and there's a lot of people in there watching them. And every game's like 1-0. It's tough to bet. The good teams even win 1-0. So, all right. So let's see if that game is over. 4-3 Manchester City. So, and Benzema scored twice. Man, sometimes you can get these bets where Benzema to score 2 goals or whatever. Some of these books will pay you if Benzema scores and he scores another goal. Maybe they'll pay you out double. So that's basically our show right now. When you're betting games that involve teams that are either getting promoted or relegated in the big leagues in Europe, I like to – Foxy likes Independiente del Valle to beat Atletico Mineros in the Libertadores. always ready. They're always ready, Deportivo Cali, just because it's in Bolivia. I agree with that. That's a pretty interesting play. How do you usually do it, and what do you recommend for a person who's just starting to get into betting? At the end of the season, the teams that are fighting this relegation or promotion obviously have stuff to play for. When they're usually playing these teams that are safe, I'm going to give you a little bit of an example here. In the Premier League, when Burnley is playing a team like Leicester City, who's involved in a Europa Conference League, or a Brentford who's safe, or a Southampton, they don't really have anything to play for in these final 4 games. They're already safe. Their minds are maybe on the beach already. That happens a lot, by the way. They don't want to get hurt. They don't want to get hurt going into the summer. They want to recuperate. Those teams have something to play for. That's definitely something to watch. Chelsea plays Manchester United on Thursday, and we'll be talking about that tomorrow. And then Chelsea also plays Everton. So Chelsea's playing Everton. That's kind of a game where, you could say Chelsea doesn't have as much to play for. Everton has everything to play for at Everton, but Everton's just really bad. So, it's tough. You're going to get decent odds, I think, on Chelsea, who's miles better. You just have to see who plays that game. I think a lot of times with those games, you want to see where the team is and what the lineup is before you commit to anything like that. So, you can get better odds maybe now on an Everton-Chelsea game. But, if Chelsea sits their players, and plays the young kids to see what they can do for next year, the odds are going to change. So I always like to look at the lineup first. It's good to talk about this stuff now and get it out there, but sometimes, you need to see the lineup. All right, so that's going to be the show. Listen, once again, you see my Twitter there. The Prodigal Sean, that's my thing. I also have a Margal football thing where it's my, my soccer football website. Does it where you're seeing these teams that aren't usually playing for nothing? Yeah, look, it's Anthony is asking a lot of really good questions today as someone who's maybe starting to just bet on soccer. When you're looking for games, again, when teams have something to play for and teams don't have that aren't playing for anything, and maybe they're relegation. The Premier League is the richest league in the world. If you stay up, you're 150 million guaranteed for 2 more years, because you get it the next year you go down. Even if you get relegated, that's another 300 million pounds. It's like $500 million. It's really big. The last 4 weeks of the season, there's 4 games left. It's tough because some of these teams don't have anything to play for. I'll be honest here. Southampton, the teams that are like 10th, Crystal Palace, I don't love betting those teams. I really want to bet the good teams. I don't want to bet the middle teams. You want to bet teams that have something to play for at the top or at the bottom. These middle teams, and it's just really tough. Sometimes you get the odds, and it's like Newcastle I like now because they're on fire right now, and they're trending upwards, and I think they've been undervalued. There's been a lot of games in the last month and a half where you can get them at plus 130, plus 140, and they're better than their points say. But when you're betting a Palace against the Watford, Palace against the Southampton, I try to stay away, to be honest, because it's just. If you have a feel for it, if you've been watching Southampton all the time, you're watching comp videos or whatever, it's worth betting. But, I think other than that, it's probably worth staying away for. All right. So see you tomorrow at 4:00, and we'll be back. And if you have any questions, please, sometimes the teams have nothing, others play worse. Yep. You have to watch the games to get a feel. I agree. So we'll see you tomorrow at the same time, and we're going to talk about, there's a lot of action Thursday. Europa League, Conference League, Manchester United. They're not winning. So, all right. See you then.